is more eloquent than me, and I will admit he's good at like making people go down these rabbit holes of really difficult to answer questions. But honestly, I think if we both had an equal chance to talk and we had a format in which both people could lay out their arguments and present things in a way that wasn't just this one person attacking the other and the other person barely having a chance to answer, I think it would become clear that his presuppositional apologetics is totally and utterly irrational.
I think that's the equivalent of bowling with the safety guards up.
I disagree with you guys.
I don't think that...
You just had a guy. He just Wingflier just basically said he goes by consciousness and he doesn't know anything about it. Hey, come on.
Could you give me a link to that atheist blog?
The problem is you can't eloquently defend positions.
Yeah, you get that.
What? Can you repeat the transcendental argument for us all to hear, please?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me right now?
The God of the Bible is a necessary precondition for all intelligibility. Period.
I mean,
and
it was
to
just an
deny
assertion,
it
not an argument.
will
DJ,
leave
but...
you, okay? Yeah, Ocean, I'm not interested in speaking with you, okay?
The transcendental argument is an argument.
How many times? Okay, listen, I've told you over and over again, due to your past chronic trolling, I have no interest in speaking.
You're fucking kidding me, right? Don't
Okay,
try to, don't do that.
I'm not interested in speaking.
So,
okay.
Good Lord, dude. The transcendental argument is an argument, but you're just not repeating it as an argument. You're repeating it as an assertion.
Yeah, the transcendental argument
is
not used within Christian apologetics. It is rarely used because it's just not.
The God of the Bible is the necessary precondition for all knowledge, wisdom, and reason. Premise 2, we can reason. Therefore, the God of the Bible exists. Now, would you like to take that apart, Wingflier? I doubt that you even understand it, let alone.
I would love to have a formal debate setting where we both get to talk and we have rules and a moderator.
Listen. For mental health reasons.
Why do you want to do that with
according to the instructions of
because first of all, because in a debate he couldn't just talk over me and interrupt me and insult me as well.
Dude,
he could definitely insult you in a formatted debate.
Well, he could insult me, but it wouldn't be productive.
If somebody
honestly, with the whole talking over thing, just handle it like how I'm handling it right now, and things will be fine for you. See?
Wingflier, if there's somebody posts a recording of this, listen to this debate, and you'll see how clueless you are.
No, what I will hear if I listen to this debate is you talking for 90% of the time, insulting me, talking over me.
That's because I know what I'm talking about, and you do not.
Oh my God, you're so arrogant. Look, if you want to have, you are very arrogant. If you want to have a debate with rules, okay, and in a formal setting, I will have that with you.
You're not going to get that with him, and you're not going to get that here.
No, that's not going to happen.
No, that's fine then. That's fine. But what that shows me is that all you have are these tricks.
2 hours here. I wouldn't waste my time debating with you again. You're totally clueless. You contradicted yourself at least 3 or 4 times here.
More than that.
I don't think you're very good at this Wingflier.
Yeah, I mean, really, dude. I mean, it's embarrassing talking with you.
This is the saddest part, is when you guys were talking about ultimate authority, and he's saying he's his ultimate authority, and then he goes and equates another ultimate authority. It's like, well, then you're not an ultimate authority, and he doesn't get it.
I mean, he's clueless. He probably didn't take his Adderall today.
Okay, so what I will say again is that you are very good at leading people down these rabbit hole of questions that get the results that you want, and you're very eloquent. And I'm not denying that. What I'm saying is, you never give another person time to respond to the full statement. You don't give 50-50 or anything close. What you give is like these 90-10, and you talk over someone, and if they don't give an answer you like, you laugh and make fun of them. That is not
Wingflier is going to mention the right thing.
All you mention much of the time on the microphone are these mini community college lectures, and 98% of the time when I would ask you questions, you in a clueless fashion answered some other question I didn't ask.
Yeah, and that's why he's cutting you off.
Because the purpose of your questions,
what's 1 + 1, and you're telling him what 3 × 2 is, he's not going to let you answer that because it's pointless. He's not asking that question.
Because the purpose...
Wing, listen, dude. Everyone in the room is listening to you. You're the guy when I ask you, what does consciousness depend upon? And you're like, well, it just depends on itself.
Yeah, I think its consciousness is foundational.
Then how can you die?
Sir, so in other words, if your consciousness came into existence, then it began to exist. Okay? Therefore, it had a cause, unless, of course, you want to say that your consciousness popped into existence acausally. So is your consciousness, I'll ask you a very simple question in the form of a law of non-contradiction. Is your consciousness is it the result of causality or acausality?
I'll say it's the cause of causality.
Sir, is your consciousness the result of causality or not?
Why can consciousness not be the foundation for causality?
Okay, you know, I should have listened to Krill for my own mental health. This is how stupid this guy is.
I mean, if you want to say that God is the foundation for causality,
I'd like to see him answer a multiple questionnaire. He would be like all over the place.
I asked you a question, A or not A? Okay, is consciousness causal or acausal?
Well, it's causal.
Then consciousness has a prerequisite then.
Why? Because if you want to say no, because if you want to say that God has no prerequisite, then why can't consciousness have no prerequisite?
God is acausal.
Okay, yeah, you see,
dude, you just said that it was causal and then said that it doesn't have any prerequisites.
Clueless, dude.
What the living fuck are you trying to say, dude?
So you're saying that God is acausal. God just exists.
First of all,
if you're going to say that something is the ultimate reality,
your MO is to change the subject. We were talking about your consciousness. We weren't immediately talking about God's existence or consciousness. Now, you said that you 1 minute you just say that your consciousness doesn't have any prerequisites, and then you tell me it's causal. You can't make up your mind.
You're saying that,
sir, I just misunderstood the question, okay?
Dude, how could you
have to
misunderstand? I said, is your consciousness causal or acausal?
It's not causal, rather.
That's A or not A?
Oh my God. All right, as soon as you say that it's causal, then you're saying that it's not the ultimate reality. Because it's
okay, so then it's acausal.
Consciousness is not acausal. That's why he's laughing.
If it's acausal, then it must be eternal.
It could be. I mean, it could be.
No, because you would know it's eternal.
No. It could be either eternal or his consciousness could have just simply popped into existence. So, is your consciousness, sir, eternal, or did your consciousness just pop into existence?
I don't know.
Nothing.
I don't know.
Well, wait a minute. What do you mean you don't know?
Dude, were you not born?
You just told me it was acausal.
But how would I know the answer to that?
How do you know that it's acausal?
How do I know that consciousness? No, I'm arguing that consciousness.
Listen. I'm going to try. Listen. I'm really not trying to be mean right now. Okay. All you're doing further talking on this subject matter, you're just embarrassing yourself in front of everybody in the room. You do not know what you're talking about on a whole range of issues in theology, philosophy, and the philosophy of science. You're totally clueless on these issues. You're very opinionated, but you don't have a grip on the fundamentals and the basics of these philosophies.
Okay, I will say what I said before. If I'm so easy to beat and you can just destroy me, if you want to have a debate in a formal setting that's not just you talking for 90% of the time, I would be willing to do that.
I doubt you can even present a philosophical argument. I
doubt you can answer.
Dude, nobody thinks that you would be able to do better in that environment.
Okay. And I offer that challenge to anybody here. Anybody that would like to have a formal debate on subject like religion, I would be willing to do it.
Why would we want to have a formal debate?
I have a question for you. Have you ever recently or in the past had a frontal lobe injury?
No, not that I know of.
Not that you remember.
Yeah, not that I know of.
Darth, have you considered starting a Patreon to collect funds for water for the water that you expend or being dehydrated from debating?
I'm considering it, Krill. You know what?
I mean,
you know what?
these
It's
people
my
owe you
mistake.
at
It's
least
my. You know
30
what?
amounts
It's
of
my
water.
mistake. I should have quit after 10 minutes with this guy.
So let me ask you though, why did you ask about a frontal lobe injury? Just out of curiosity.
I think it's obvious.
It's hard being the smartest guy in the room because everyone's out to get you.
No, but I mean, when you say it's obvious, what do you mean by? I mean, can you elaborate?
Yeah, you have an incapacity to think clearly. You have an incapacity to focus on the topic at hand. You have a complete incapacity in terms of listening skills. You have an incapacity to answer the simplest of questions without scurrying down some semi-related rabbit trail, which isn't immediately germane to the questions I ask you.
And delusion towards those capacities.
Okay.
Like you
Anyways,
keep saying that you're a good debater, yet every single time you get into a debate, you do terribly.
Well, because first in my last debate, I was debating with 10 people. Okay, and this time ZJ
So you can't
talked
handle
for,
that.
Look,
Okay.
Wayne, we started off the conversation early on. You said that science falsified the Bible, but then you had to throw in the towel when you admitted that provisional conclusions do not necessarily falsify propositions.
No, I think that the Bible should be taken provisionally. That was my response.
No, sir. Again, you're not.
Wingflier,
You're
I
not.
want to know
You're
why
not
you want to
focusing
have
on what I
this
just
debate,
said to you.
like a formal debate.
I pointed out to you, okay, that you made an absolute declaration that certain pronouncements in science falsified certain propositions in the Bible. I then had to explain to you the fundamentals of the philosophy of science, that in empiricism, conclusions are provisional in nature, and if it's provisional, then it's not necessarily true. If a provisional conclusion is not necessarily true, then it cannot be said to have falsified another proposition. It can only be deemed to be inconsistent with another proposition. And even though you may hold to that provisional conclusion as though it was true, in order to falsify X, you're going to have to verify not X.
But you also said
I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet.
Okay.
Holding provisionally to not X does not falsify X. It just means not X that you provisionally hold to does not cohere and conform to X, that they're inconsistent.
And yet things in science are falsifiable. Yes, things in science are falsifiable. Falsifiability is an important.
Okay, all right, listen. Okay, now, if you're so big on the philosophy of science, okay, then if things are ultimately falsifiable in science, it means that you can verify things. Excuse me. In order to falsify X, you have to verify not X, right? But can we verify things in science?
Yes.
No, we come to provisional conclusions that are not necessarily the truth. They may be accepted as though they are truth. In order to actually falsify, there's another philosopher of science that you don't know about. His name is W.V. Quine. Okay, you probably never heard of him. And he brought up the issue of the problem called underdetermination. Let me ask you this question. I'll give you an illustration. Here's the problem of falsification. Suppose I said to you, the gods are immortal. And then I said to you, Apollo is a god. Now, suppose you found Apollo dead on the battlefield. What would that observation falsify? Would it falsify that Apollo is a god? Or would it falsify that the gods are immortal?
Go ahead.
What did that observation falsify? Any answer?
I mean, you go ahead and tell me. You're the one. Go ahead.
No, you were the one who invoked falsification as the sine qua non of science. And if falsification is the high ground there, you're going to advance it. Now, I just gave you a very clear example we have two premises. Apollo is a god, and the gods are immoral, and you find Apollo dead on the battlefield. Which of those propositions are falsified?
Well, that Apollo is immortal, right, is falsified.
No,
That wasn't one of the propositions.
no, sir. Either if you find Apollo dead on the battlefield, what is falsified? That the gods are immortal, or that Apollo is a god?
That the gods are immortal.
No, you don't know. You don't know which one it falsifies. That's called the problem of underdetermination in falsification in science. Because when you make an observation, that observation can only be made with regards to a set or a network of beliefs or auxiliary hypotheses. You would have to verify and or falsify all of those auxiliary hypotheses that support your observation that something falsifies something else. So you see, even within the philosophy of science, there's a big problem with falsification. Now you want to say,
wait. So you're saying that finding Apollo dead on a battlefield doesn't falsify that he's immortal?
No, I'm asking you, which proposition does it falsify? Does it falsify the gods are immortal, or does it falsify that Apollo is a god? You don't know which one it falsifies. When you make a singular observation, the question is, what does it falsify? So you see, when you start waving around the falsification criteria and you borrow it from science and you try to bring it into metaphysics by saying God is unfalsifiable, then if God is unfalsifiable, then nothing can count as evidence for God. And if nothing can count for evidence for God, then your not God worldview can't be falsified. Therefore, whatever you assert is based upon an unfalsifiable starting point. So when you ever heard the expression live by the sword, die by the sword? If you pull out the sword of falsifiability and you try to use it against a God concept, that's going to come back and cut your own head off, because you're trying to use the falsification criterion to neutralize any advocacy of God. But you see, if God is unfalsifiable and nothing can count for him, then nothing can falsify your not God position. And if your foundation is unfalsifiable, it's unworthy of belief according to you.
I'm not saying that God. I never said anywhere in this debate that God is unfalsifiable. What I said is that
yes, you did.
No, what I said was that people who believe in God, theologians, need to offer falsifiable evidence for God's existence.
Yeah, here's the problem. You're talking about falsification in principle? I'm waiting. Are you saying that if we propose God as a proposition, that in order for it to be a meaningful stipulation, that it has to be falsifiable in principle?
No, I'm saying if you're providing evidence for God's existence, the evidence needs to be falsifiable.
Okay, good. What observation would falsify causality?
I think causality is axiomatic.
No. Oh, so why can't God be axiomatic? Why do you hold God to a different standard?
Well, I mean, if what you're calling God is axiomatic, then
if God is the creator and sustainer of all things, he's the ultimacy of reality. But you require God to be falsifiable in principle. In other words, you require evidentiary support. Then whatever you are holding to that is not God, that is your foundation rather than God, then surely you're applying the same standards, because if you don't apply that same criterion, then you're being arbitrary and inconsistent, which is a mark of irrationality. So are your most foundational beliefs about reality that exist that make God unnecessary, are they falsifiable?
Can I respond to your full statement?
Is the existence of matter and energy in the external physical world, causality and laws of nature, is that falsifiable?
No, it's not falsifiable. But if what you're calling God is, say, the axiomatic assumption, right, that the
say it was
axiom.
an axiom.
Yeah, he did. We just had this conversation. He said that God is the axiomatic.
No, I said, why couldn't I say God was an axiom? I didn't assert that God was an axiom.
Okay, but if you're going to say that God is the axiom, then what you mean? But whatever you mean by God, I could just say the universe. The universe is the axiom that starts, this foundation.
Right, but you see, the point is here, you're being inconsistent with your central criterion. If God is the ground of all being that accounts for all contingencies, right? And you say, in order for God to be worthy of consideration and believed, God must be in principle falsifiable. Whatever you believe in that makes God unnecessary, is that falsifiable? So I will ask you a very simple question. And if you say, I don't know, you have completely screwed yourself in this room. Now, what is it that ultimately exists that is not God, that makes God unnecessary?
Just say the universe.
Okay, good. Now, so matter and energy, is that it?
Sure.
Good. Now, how is the existence of the external physical world falsifiable?
You can't falsify that.
Good. Therefore, you shouldn't believe in it according to your principle.
I was waiting for that.
No, but what I'm but here.
Yes.
Do you just realized I just scored a TKO?
No, it's not a
Literally,
TKO.
He's
It's not.
just realize it.
Let me
This
explain.
is over. This is over.
He's trying not to be fazed by it.
Listen. You're lying on the canvas. I just scored a TKO, and you're saying to your trainer, "Hey, man, I can keep on fighting. I just knocked you out."
It's not a TKO because what I'm saying is what I'm saying is whatever you call God, right? Whatever you call God, if that's just
no, Jesus Christ, just listen to what he told you.
Sir,
no. Let me
By your
finish.
standard, matter and energy is not worthy of belief.
Listen,
No,
you don't
that's not what I said.
Listen to me.
No,
You
no,
don't-
it's by your standard that you presented earlier, but God's falsifiable, meaning he is not worthy of belief. Therefore, if matter and energy
Can you let me finish my thought,
matter and
please?
energy is also not worthy of belief.
Can you let me finish my thought, please?
It's unbelievable.
Can you let me finish my thought?
No,
If
you don't
God-
understand it. You're lying on the canvas. You're bleeding.
No. Let me finish my
I'm
thought.
going to explain to you again why you got knocked out. I'm not saying
No. Would you let me talk, please, for a second?
Is there anyone in the room who thinks he wasn't just knocked out?
Can you let me talk for just one
There's
second?
nobody in the room that thinks you didn't.
If what you're calling God is the axiomatic standard, right? It's the axiomatic foundation in which logic, rationality, and reason exists, right? Then the term God is meaningless. I mean, it's just what you mean by the foundational assumptions that a person must make to know anything is true, then you're not talking about the Christian God. You're not talking about some being out there. What you're just talking about is these philosophical presuppositions.
You're not understanding.
You're calling it God, but that's meaningless. It's just these presuppositions.
Your pride is getting the better of you.
You are trying to argue for a very specific God, and if you want to argue for a very specific God that has very specific attributes and that wrote the Bible, created the world in 6 days, all these other things the Bible claims, you have to offer falsifiable proof of that.
Dude, I'm going to explain to you again how you just got knocked out, okay? Because your pride is blinding. There is nobody in the room that thinks that you didn't get knocked out. I'm going to explain to you how you just got knocked out. You told me that God was unworthy of belief because God is in principle unfalsifiable, right? You said that, remember?
I'm talking about a theist God, a theistic God, yes.
Sir.
That doesn't matter. If something is, you claim that if something is unfalsifiable, then it is unworthy of belief by principle.
Your principle is that God is unworthy of belief because God in principle is unfalsifiable. Okay, that is your criterion. Now,
I never said that. I never said that.
Everyone in the room heard
what I said was that if theists want you to believe in their particular God, they need to offer falsifiable evidence.
Sir, listen to me. This is the problem in the conversation. You're all over the map. You're scurrying in all different directions. I asked you, is God unworthy of belief because God in principle is unfalsifiable? And you said yes. Everyone in the room heard you say that. Now, That is your principle. God is not worthy of belief because God in principle is unfalsifiable. Right? You said it. Now,
I mean, if you're talking about a theistic God, then yes.
Sir. Now, the principle is this. X is unworthy of belief if X in principle is unfalsifiable.
No, that's not. I'm not saying X. I'm saying a theistic God.
Sir.
Holy shit, dude.
Yeah, and you got
nice consistency.
And many of you people think that I'm an impatient person. Look, you stipulated that God is unworthy of belief because God is in principle is unfalsifiable.
I told you I'm an agnostic. So obviously I don't think that.
Okay, listen. The problem in this conversation is every time I try to get to a discursive point, going from A to B to C, you start scurrying down semi-related rabbit trails rather than letting me go from A to B to C. Now, you categorically asserted God is unworthy of belief as an agnostic because God in principle is unfalsifiable. Then I asked you, what exists that makes God unnecessary? And you said the universe. So I then asked you, what could you observe that would falsify the reality of the external physical world? And you said nothing. So that means that the idea of the external physical world that exists, the universe that makes God unnecessary, is unfalsifiable in principle. If the external physical world in principle cannot be falsified, then according to your own criterion, it is unworthy of belief in. Therefore, you have no basis to believe in a foundation of anything, and anything that you stipulate as a contingent statement doesn't rest upon anything because it's unworthy of belief. And I have to go.
Yeah, man, that was a full knockout.
Why'd you have to kick someone while they're down like that? Jesus.
Yeah, man. I mean, Wingflier, just accept it, man.
I mean, this goes back to what I was talking about yesterday, where you have to start with these axiomatic assumptions that, for example, that knowledge is possible and then you can know things are true. Those aren't falsifiable. And I've said that from the very beginning.
Why?
But if you're going to call those axiomatic assumptions, if you're going to call those axiomatic assumptions God, I mean, then God is not a being with all these particular attributes.
Listen,
God is.
Yesterday he kicked my ass completely because if you go with his he has traps. That's what he does. He traps you and then you're fucked. Okay, so that's what happened to me. So yesterday I thought I got my ass beat by him. I kicked my own ass.
He traps you with truth.
No, he doesn't trap you, and nobody looks good under skepticism. That's all it is.
The thing is this, okay? He cannot prove his position just as much as you can't prove yours. No one can prove anything in this fucking entire chat room. Nobody. No philosopher here can prove a goddamn thing whatsoever about God or not God. That's what we all know is true. We're all technically agnostic. To say not, once you say you assert God does not exist, you're fucked. 100% fucked.
That's close to true. Like people who God self-revealed, if God reveals themselves to people, they can say that God is evident to themselves.
Yeah, and they can't prove it otherwise other than themselves. That's the problem.
They can't prove it to other people.
Yes. Yeah, and that means nothing. They can't prove it outside of themselves. So that's the issue with prophecy. So even these men in the desert who got spoken to God trillions of times, if I said I spoke to God today and told you guys, you think I'm insane, yet everyone else believes these men thousands of years ago over all this time to write these books. The point is with him, he's very intelligent, he's very articulate. He uses words I don't even fucking understand they mean, and then I'm sitting there like, holy shit, okay, oh my God. The point is, once you give your position, say I agree. See, the thing is, you were contradicting yourself left and right, just like I was. Me, the reason why
you weren't that bad.
No, but here's the thing: I instantly agreed when I contradicted myself. I didn't fight it, Wingflier.
Exactly, Julius.
And that's another thing, and he knew that, so he could use that against me. So he goes, oh, well, this is an honest motherfucker. He's not going to fucking sit there. Let me continue putting him down the hole, which is my fault. He didn't have to insert his position. He actually didn't have to defend, but he did evade me twice. When I said, how do you know your God is the correct God and not Allah? He did evade that question. He evaded a few things, but the point is, since I gave up my worldview, nothing I said was worthy of criticism to his God. Nothing. Even though he can't prove, even if I was 1,000% wrong, it doesn't make him right. If I'm refuted left and right for 20 minutes straight, his position is still not be able to be proven by him or any Christian on this fucking planet. No Christian today can prove their position. Not one motherfucking Christian or atheist can prove themselves to be correct. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here, and we all be atheists or Christians or whatever else. So this is the thing about philosophy. This is a goddamn boxing match. That's what I realized yesterday. Even though I got slapped around yesterday, I learned, oh, that's why I lost. I kick my own butt. He's great at what he does. And this is a sport. So if you contradict yourself, that's okay. The problem I noticed with philosophical debates, once you contradict yourself, suddenly you're a moron and everyone thinks you're stupid. Who gives a fuck what anyone thinks?
No. You're only a moron if you double down.
Okay, double down. Exactly. So when you, okay, that's a good point. But it's okay to contradict. Just like in a boxing match, there's a bunch of rounds. You get your ass kicked in this round, that round. In the end, you find the fucking final fatality uppercut. Like, wait a minute, you can't, you're saying God is the ultimate truth. How the fuck do you know that? He doesn't know that. He believes in it. So he's in the same boat as you. And if you could have said...
So it's slightly different.
Well, kinda, but the important part here is Wingflier, that you need to accept what went down.
Yeah, what contradict, when you are when he says you've been contradicting yourself, accept it immediately and say, okay, and say, well, what, and then you go from there. And then you could build your defenses up and go after him again. Otherwise, he has to explain himself. I mean, he's very smart. He's very versed in what he's talking. I'm sitting here, he's saying shit, I don't even know what the fuck he's talking about. And that's that's very, what is that? That's intimidating. So there's words I don't even know. Maybe you don't even fucking understand what he's saying. And then you're like, holy shit, I'm dead. Well, that doesn't matter. You still can get to the base of everything. So once he explains things to you, he did knock you the fuck out. You actually knocked yourself out. That's the problem. He didn't do shit. He just, even if he's wrong, he still knocked you out. See what I'm saying? Because you knocked yourself out. So it's not like he beat you. He's not better than you. You just fucked yourself over.
No. It's different. Wingflier went for a haymaker and left himself exposed to the knockout that Darth swiftly.
Right. So that's what I look at philosophy. It's two men with different positions boxing mentally. This is a mental chess game. And philosophy is like I was talking to someone earlier in private chat. I said it was a logical fallacy spell checker. That's all it is. It's, wait a minute, you made a fallacy. That's all. It's all it can do. It's a spell checker for logical fallacy. So you guys debate, and eventually someone makes a fallacy, and you call them out, and then you have to adjust your debate and go on forward. Essentially, nobody won. You didn't prove God exists. He didn't prove he existed, and neither did you refute that he existed. None of us could win. See, that's what I'm saying. So it's a great exercise. But I'm just listening, and I feel like, it's best to just admit when you've been destroyed.
The problem is the theistic view is kind of self-justified, and the atheist view reduces almost to nothing. So the fun in these conversations is trying to justify the atheist view.
Yeah, I mean, the atheist view, I guess the Christian view is only self-justifiable because it claims to be. Because without the Bible, a Christian couldn't even know God existed, according to the Christian.
No, that's not true.
Why not? Because they always say
that's not true. What are you talking about?
Think about it.
The belief of God is inherent in all human beings without the Bible.
Well, this is the thing, Julius. I think I don't think you're very well versed in Christianity. I think you need to just listen to more conversations on it before making more claims on it.
Wait,
the Bible literally dictates that without the Bible dictates without the Bible that humans would still have an inherent belief in God and still be inherently attracted to God. Like that's not true at all.
But why are there atheists?
Why are there atheists? Because it also says that people will reject this inherent belief.
Oh, so it covers.
Yeah, that's wrong. There's no way you could actually know that all people inherently believed in God unless you knew the Bible was true.
No,
right?
Holy fuck, dude! You missed the point. It's like talking to a wall.
Wait a second. Wait a second.
It's not knowing that everybody.
How would you actually know that there's? How would you actually know that there are more than one?
You're missing the point.
You're just gonna overtalk me, right? That's what you have to do, right? So I'm just saying, how would you actually know that there are other minds if it was not revealed to you through the Bible, right? And how could you claim that knowledge of God was inherent if you didn't even know that there were other minds?
God reveals it to people directly.
Okay, are you done?
So God reveals propositions?
That makes no sense.
Yeah, you're just wrong, and you don't want to admit it.
No, actually, yeah, no. So no, what I was saying before you just came up with some bullshit is that just because the inherent belief isn't necessarily dictated by people believing, you fucking retard. That's literally what we just said. Like, what are you talking about? We literally just said that the inherent belief,
I don't know what you just said.
Inherent can still be rejected. Yeah, of course.
I don't know what you just said.
Asshat. Yeah, exactly. You don't.
Yeah, maybe you just didn't say anything.
The Bible makes claims that to back its own ass.
You're the one who didn't say anything, bro. Like, Jesus Christ. You articulated a counterpoint to a point that was never made. And then say, I didn't say anything. Okay. Right,
Okay, Julius, go ahead, man.
I'm just saying, when people say because the Bible, it seems to me that they can't even prove their own God without the Bible. So it's almost like their God must only be proven with the Bible. It's circular reasoning to me. That's what I'm saying. When people argue because the Bible, I'm not saying I'm a deist. I don't believe in that shit.
Julius, here's the problem.
Yeah.
When you reject to the transcendental argument for God on the grounds of circularity, am I correct? That's your objection?
What's my objection? That I'm the I'm not even mentioning
transcendentality. To the circular nature of saying the Bible verifies itself.
When the Christians, when someone says to you, when someone asks you, how do you know God exists? You say because of the Bible revealing Himself in the Bible.
Well, actually, the correct way of pronouncing it is we know that God exists through His revelatory acts.
Yes.
And apart from His revelatory acts, nothing could be known, including His existence. Now, His revelatory acts consist of natural and special revelation. Now, do you reject that in principle?
I do reject that.
Okay, now here's the problem. When you reject that we can know the ultimate authority in virtue of the ultimate authority itself, then you will lose your ability to make assertions, because any assertion you will make, I will ask you, how do you know that?
I know where you're going to go. So
and then you're going, how are you going to appeal to an ultimate authority, Julius?
See, the
It
thing
sounds
is,
like an appeal to consequences, though.
No, it's not. It's not.
No. I know what he's.
Because you're saying if you don't think God's self-verifying, then you have nothing.
It's actually
the consequence.
It's actually a reductio ad absurdum.
So. If you never read the Bible, you wouldn't know God existed.
Okay. Well, first, okay. Now
that's my point to you. That's what your argument
is. Now, do you think I haven't heard that a gazillion times?
No, probably. You probably have.
Okay, good. Now here's the response.
Good.
Okay. Without the biblical text,
yes,
okay, we would not know that God exists.
Okay.
Now, the Bible stipulates very clearly in Romans 1, all men know that God exists in virtue of the revelation of creation. Now, if your statement is true, that we cannot know God apart from the text of the Bible, then if what you say is true, then what necessarily follows that is the falsity of the Christian God. Are you aware of that?
No, it's not the falsity of the Christian
God. Okay, you're not understanding it. I'll have to go over it again with you. If you assert that God cannot be known, the one true God cannot be known apart from the text, the special revelation. What you're saying is He cannot be known in part as the one true God from natural revelation.
Natural revelation, you mean the earth and the stars and the creation?
Yes. You've got God's revelatory acts are subdivided into natural and special revelation. Now, when you say that other than an appeal to the text of Scripture, God cannot be known to exist apart from that.
Okay.
Well, if that statement is true, if it is true, then what necessarily follows is the falsity of the Christian God. It necessarily follows from that statement. Okay.
And then I know, and then therefore, if I agree with that, then I am falsifying the Christian God, which is impossible.
You're not understanding it. Okay. Now, your stipulation, then it necessarily follows the falsity of the Christian God. Then I simply have to ask you, is the Christian God's existence necessarily false?
Now, that's to me a word fuck, right? Necessarily false. That means that in order for my statement to be true, He cannot exist. That's what you're saying.
The reason why I put it that way is so that people.
Speak to me in that, because I'm not as smart as you. My IQ is 50.
Okay.
So speak to me like a retard so I can understand.
Well, when I say necessarily false, it means it could not be otherwise.
Okay. First of all, I cannot know that it could not be otherwise. I'm not falling for this bullshit.
Okay. No, it's not bullshit.
It is bullshit. No, it's bullshit.
No,
listen,
Julius,
I know what you're doing. Listen, I know you're not. I know. Listen, I know what you're doing. I know you cannot prove God exists. 1,000%. You cannot personally prove it. You cannot.
Okay, now,
You,
all right, now
you
what
cannot
that
do
means?
it.
Okay, all right, listen.
You can't prove it. If I put a gun to your head, you
Please
couldn't
stop
prove it.
Okay,
screaming. You
Julius.
don't have to
Julius.
scream, man.
Okay, well, Julius, the problem
Okay.
here is you must not confuse persuasion with proof and verification. Right?
Okay,
Now,
yes,
proof and verification is a stipulation that is shown to conform and cohere to an ultimate standard.
I know. I heard this already with the other kid. I know.
Okay, good. Yeah, and he was a moron.
Your
not.
ultimate standard. You cannot prove that your ultimate standard exists in the first place.
Okay. So when you say I can't prove it, means that there is no. Do you mean that there is no ultimate standard by which we can conform and cohere stipulations to?
There could be an ultimate standard. I'm saying you cannot prove your own ultimate
Yeah,
standard.
so he doesn't.
All right. Listen, Julius.
Yes.
When you say you cannot prove the existence of God, okay, so then me appealing to the Bible as the ultimate authority and ultimate standard for the stipulation to cohere to cannot be appealed to, right?
You can appeal to it. Doesn't mean it's true.
Right. Okay. So what that statement means is when you say you can't prove it, that means appealing to the Bible as the ultimate authority doesn't prove it, right?
Yeah.
Good. Great. So what that necessarily entails is two things: not only the falsity of the Bible, but the falsity of the Christian God. Now.
Okay.
Now.
So I'm making an absolute statement which I can't even falsify myself.
Right.
So I can't make that.
If you say the existence of God cannot be known in the form of an agnostic statement, what necessarily follows from that is the falsity of the Christian God, because the Christian God necessarily entails that he has made himself known. So if God cannot be known, then the Christian God cannot exist. So the question is, does the Christian God necessarily not exist?
If the Christian God so if he did not reveal himself for a fact, then yes, he does not exist.
Okay. No, I'm asking you.
No. Forget about me. Listen, this is another tactic.
I can't forget about you because you made a proposition.
Okay.
And you said it cannot be proven or known that God exists. Now,
I said you, not just. I didn't see. This is another nonsense. I said you cannot prove God exists.
Okay,
you're God.
Watch.
You, not anyone else. You.
Okay, good. Okay, that's fine.
Okay,
now,
there you go.
All I have simply say is, the proof of God's existence is the creation, everything in it, and the Bible. Now,
okay,
do you accept that?
I accept the creation part, which is deism, which you said is nonsense.
No. Well,
the other day.
Well, no. But you see, the creation is the proof of the one true God.
It is not proof of God. And the creation is that you believe. Here's the thing. You believe.
Julius, listen to me. Listen, dude. Okay. When you say I cannot prove or it can be known that God exists, is that your stipulation?
I'm saying prove.
Okay,
I said prove from day one.
Okay, good. Prove. And is that synonymous with no?
I guess it could be, yeah.
Okay. All right, good. So you cannot know, you cannot prove that God exists. Okay, now, from that statement, it necessarily follows the falsity of the Christian God. Necessarily.
No. Why is it necessarily prove the Christian God?
I'll tell you why. Okay.
It doesn't.
Listen. I'm trying to explain to you why it necessarily follows. It's not merely my opinion. I can show you it necessarily follows.
All right, go ahead. You can try.
The Christian God is defined in terms of his properties and attributes that have been progressively revealed.
Yes.
One of those attributes is that he has made himself known as the one true God in creation and through the course of human history and special revelation.
Yes.
If you say God cannot be known, period, that necessarily entails the falsity of the Christian God, because the Christian God necessarily entails that he has made himself known.
Right. That's the narrative of your religion.
No, sir. No, what I'm saying is,
I understand what you're saying.
That's why he says Christian God, so it sticks within the narrative.
I'm not asking you to accept the definition of the Christian God as actual or veridical in this conversation. I'm saying the Christian God is defined as X, Y, Z. Okay?
I get it.
And the Christian God is defined as having revealed himself. If you say God cannot be known, then that means that the Christian God has not revealed himself.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand?
Uh-huh.
Now, so your stipulation that God cannot be known or he cannot be proven, that there cannot be an ultimate standard, the ultimate standard or final authority cannot be appealed to, right? Then the question simply is it the case that the Christian God necessarily does not exist, Julius? Because if you say no, then your stipulation that the Christian God cannot be known is not necessarily true.
Right. It's not necessary. It's not necessarily true.
No. Your assertion about the Christian God is not necessarily true.
Right. And I said,
therefore, your stipulation is simply a guess.
Exactly. I told you from the start. This is what I'm saying.
Right. Therefore, when you assert the Christian God can be known, that's not a truth or knowledge statement. That's just a speculation.
But when I said prove, okay, so this is maybe the little thing here. You said, when you said proven known, you said, is proven known the same? Okay. You know what? I can know something stupid and it might be false. So actually, no. Proven known is not.
No, please don't say that. Please don't say that.
Why not? Why not?
Because you're saying that something false can be known. Just stick with justified true beliefs, not false.
Yeah.
Okay, justified true beliefs. And is it not true that you cannot prove to the whole planet that God exists yourself?
No,
is it not true?
No. It can.
I asked you. I have a dog with a bone. I'm asking you a question.
I'm going to ask you. I'm going to answer you.
I have a bone, my friend.
It can be proven to you that not only God and the Christian God exist. It can be proven, but the proof that is presented may not persuade you. Persuasion and proof are not the same concepts.
Okay, so you have a narrative which can
now,
persuade me to believe.
The proof, okay,
has to be believed.
Proof and I'll ask you a simple question.
Mm-hmm.
Proof and verification are stipulations that conform and cohere with your most foundational beliefs or ultimate authority. Do you accept that definition?
Mm-hmm. Wait, hold on. I wasn't paying attention. What was it again?
Yeah. Proof and verification are stipulations or assertions that conform and cohere to the ultimate authority or ultimate standard.
Okay. So now you have to have an ultimate standard. I see what you're saying. And your ultimate standard is God, right? Okay.
No, I'm just asking, do you agree with that definition?
Well, I don't even know what an ultimate standard would be other than myself, because I'm the only thing that I can perceive the world.
Listen, Julius, when people start throwing around the terms proof, verification, and justification, there's going to have to be an appeal.
I understand that.
To other truth claims. And the truth claim is going to have to be certified or determined by some ultimate authority.
Yes. Okay, sure.
Right. So when you say I can't prove it, what you're saying is there is no ultimate authority that has communicated X, Y, Z.
There could be.
There is no. So when you say there is no ultimate authority that has
so I cannot. Okay.
So in other words, when you say you cannot prove the existence of God, what you are now saying is that the Christian God cannot and does not exist, nor is the Bible the ultimate authority and inspired word of God.
See, this is the thing, my friend. I did not say at all.
It necessarily follows from that.
I don't give it. The necessarily follows. It's like you're putting words.
Okay, just follows. It just follows from that.
No, sir. It's
what
not.
You say, that's what it means.
Listen, I'm not putting words in your mouth. What I'm saying is, if you say you cannot prove the existence of God, then it necessarily follows that the Bible is not revelation from God.
Okay. All right. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I get that.
Good. Now, if you cannot prove God's existence, then it necessarily follows that the Christian God does not exist.
No, It does not.
You're not understanding this, dude. We'll go over it again.
No. If I can't prove
the Christian God, listen, the Christian
I think
God,
if he had time to do it on his own, I think he'd find the error.
Okay,
He'd tie himself in a knot.
The Christian God is defined by his properties,
okay,
right?
I get what you're saying now.
Okay.
I understand. You
One
don't have
of
to repeat. I get it now.
Right.
I repeat it. Go ahead.
So
You don't
one
have
of
to
the properties of the Christian God is that he has revealed himself in
Okay.
natural and special revelation of the Bible.
Right.
Now, the Bible says about itself that it is authoritative, inspired revelation from God.
Yes.
Therefore, it's the ultimate authority. So whatever it says, by definition, would be proven. Now, if you say that it cannot be proven that God or the Christian God exists, then it necessarily follows from your stipulation that the Christian God cannot exist.
Okay, so where I went wrong was this. I said you cannot prove that God exists. Then you're saying that the proof in the pudding is in the Bible, which could be 100% the word. It could be the word of God, and therefore, when you present it to someone, you could persuade them to believe it, which is the proof that you're supposed to present as a Christian.
If your statement is true,
then I can't make that statement then, because it's an absolute statement that I cannot make.
If your statement is true,
okay, so it's not true.
The Bible is necessarily false.
So my statement is possibly true.
That's the problem now, because now you're either going to have to stipulate it as true.
Yeah. So are you going to double down on a claim that you don't know is true?
No, I'm not going to double down on the claim that I know is true.
Okay, then we're done.
Yeah. So you're.
But that doesn't prove the Christian God.
No, but you see, that's not the issue. What the issue is, I've gotten you to retract your truth claim,
which was you can't prove God.
You can't prove God.
Okay, that's fine, and I admit that.
Now, the proof of the Christian God is that he has revealed himself as the one true God in all that exists in natural revelation, and he has revealed himself in progressive revelation in and through the Bible. Now, if somebody says, well, that doesn't prove it, then what you're saying is that the Bible is not what it claims to be, the ultimate and final self-attesting, self-verifying final authority. Okay? Now, then the question is, since you reject that, you will either reject that in principle or not in principle. Now, it's more precarious if you reject it in principle, because it will wipe out your ability to make assertions. So it would be more modest to say that you don't reject it in principle, but you just simply say you don't accept the Bible as the final authority.
Right. Then that's what I'm saying.
Okay, good. So you don't reject it in principle then?
I cannot reject it in principle, because that would be a false statement.
Right. Well, no. It wouldn't be false. It would just mean that if you reject that any final authority can only verify itself, and there can't be an independent means of verification of the final authority. If you reject that in principle, you destroy your ability to make any assertions. Okay. But if you don't reject it in principle, but you just say, well, I just don't accept your claim that the Bible is the ultimate authority, but you reserve that there is some other ultimate authority, right? So now the question comes is, since you don't accept the Bible as its own self-attesting, self-verifying authority, then the question is, what is your ultimate standard by which we can know and prove things?
It's experience and perception.
Well, experience can mean anything from mental. Let me finish. Experience is vague. It can mean what's the word I'm looking for? I'm blanking out. It means it's a type of contemplation.
I've been going for a long time.
It can be introspection, or it might mean sense perception. What do you mean by experience?
Me, it's actually the existence of experience. The fact that I'm here, cognitive, listening to you.
So you're talking about
existence. I'm actually talking about existence.
Right. You're talking about your sense perception and your introspection.
I'm talking about my sense perception, reason, logic, all of it.
Well, sense perception cannot be the final authority, because sense perception doesn't speak for itself. So what you have to be referring to as the final authority will be your reasoning faculties.
The final authority is reality itself.
No.
I think you should Google qualia. I think that's what you're trying to say.
Julius. A rock on the moon is not the ultimate authority. An atom inside your brain is not the ultimate authority. Okay.
Right.
I could go down the list listing a whole bunch of particulars, and you would say, well, that's not the ultimate authority. Now, if you say existence is the ultimate authority, so in other words, the stars, the moon,
the only
meteors, that's the ultimate authority.
Here's what I'm trying to explain.
How is the non-conscious cosmos the ultimate authority?
How do you know the cosmos is not conscious? You're asserting that. You're asserting it's unconscious for some reason. You have no evidence that it's unconscious. You have no proof that it's unconscious.
Do you have a reason to believe that it is conscious?
Because I am conscious and I came from the universe.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but you see, okay, so when you talk about consciousness, are you referring to your brain states?
I'm talking about what emits from my brain, or it doesn't matter which
okay,
state it
good.
is.
So your consciousness is the emergent property of your
could be. Listen, it could be.
What
It may not be. I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly.
Well, if you're not sure, how do you know consciousness is the ultimate authority if you're not sure what it comes from?
Because this is the only way I could actually experience the reality.
So it's not an ultimate. It's provisionally an ultimate.
Julius, even though I don't totally disagree with you, I love you, guy, man. You're great. I mean,
but here's what I'm trying to say, because no, it's okay. You can laugh. What I'm trying to say is
I'm not laughing at you. I'm just saying.
No. Listen, I love this.
You're such a nice guy, even though I disagree with you.
No.
You're just so pleasant.
Listen, yesterday you wiped the floor with me. Today you're not gonna do that. Okay, so it's not.
All right.
I learned a lot.
I'll get my Band-Aids.
No, you did. No, listen. I know what you.
I gotta go in 5 minutes, by the way.
But you know what I'm trying to say. When I say you cannot prove God, I'm not saying that I know that there's no God, therefore you're screwed. I'm saying you can't personally say, hey, listen, I know this is, here's God right here, right there. You can say his word and stuff. Now, that's what I'm saying. You know that. You know, if you could prove God existed as a Christian, that you would be the most popular Christian on the planet. You would be the next Christ. That would be it right there. That's what I'm trying. You know what I'm trying to say.
The proof of God's existence is his natural and special revelation.
Okay. So nature.
Do you accept that?
I believe the natural revelation gives me the ability to say, you know what? I think something made everything. That's my belief.
Well, here's the problem.
that's what I believe.
Here's the problem. Do you know where I derived what the scope and realm of natural revelation is?
I don't know.
It's from special revelation.
Okay, so special revelation.
Okay, now if you're going to say no special revelation, but you have natural revelation about natural revelation from what?
From actually existing in this world and saying
no. You see, the fact that there is a star, the Alpha Centauri, is out there
that I didn't make.
See,
I didn't make the star, so
that's not. Listen, revelation is a communicative act upon one conscious being to another.
So how did God make natural revelation? Explain. You're telling me God made the universe, and that communicates to me.
I'll answer the question. When you take a look at a Jackson Pollock painting or a Mona Lisa, these are creative acts from a communicative being.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now, so we have communication. Right. Now, the Jackson Pollock, I would say, is less of a communication than the Mona Lisa, but it nonetheless it's a revelatory act. Inanimate objects don't give revelation. Okay.
Organic life can give revelation if you think about it.
Revelation is the choice.
What I'm saying.
Revelation is Revelation is the choice of an agency
to communicate.
To communicate. If you don't have an agent, then you don't have revelation. The fact that you have photons being emitted from a star,
so what is natural? So what is natural revelation? That's what I'm asking.
Natural revelation is where God, in his creative acts, communicates certain things about reality, about himself, that we know in a self-evident way and innately, because God has made us to innately know this, and this is in Romans 1. Right now,
But he didn't communicate.
Listen. You're not
said,
listen.
revelation.
Look. Let me illustrate something to you.
No, hold on. Go back. You said revelation.
I'm going to give you an illustration that's going to help you. Right. I want you to imagine that you go to a party, and the party has hired a professional magician, and he's also a hypnotist, and he selects 4 or 5 people, in the party who are, susceptible to hypnotism. And suppose he picks you, and he puts you, because you're highly susceptible to, hypnosis. He puts you into a trance, and he says to you, I'm going to ask you to pick a number from 1 to 1 trillion, and you're going to say the number 9. Okay? And you say, when you come to, you will have no remembrance consciously that I told you you're going to select the number 9 from 1 to 1 trillion. Okay? Yep. And then he counts 1, 2, 3, you're now awake. And he says to you, Julius, we're going to do a magic trick now. I want you to write down on this piece of paper a number from between 1 and 1 trillion. And you go, oh, okay. Say any number, don't let anybody influence you, don't let anybody see it. And then you just fold it up so nobody can see it, and you put it in your pocket, and you do it. Now, then let's say I'm the hypnotist, and I say, Julius, did you write down the number 9?
Yeah.
And you saw that nobody saw it. You'd be totally blown away. How did you know between 1 and 1 trillion? Now, I placed information into your head, okay, in a way that you were not immediately conscious of how you thought that way.
So this is how God revealed himself by giving us.
What I'm saying to you is there are certain revelatory acts that are revelation. For example, so that we do think that the external world is actual, that we do think that there's causality, laws of nature, and we have a basic reliability of our consciousness, are all innate ways that we cannot otherwise think, because that's the way God has ordained and constructed the mind of man to operate insofar as we have a normally functioning brain. That is revelatory.
I see that, and that's where you and all right, and that's
natural revelation.
Yes, and
but if you disconnect from God and you just want to say, the cosmos is revelatory, well, is the cosmos an agent or not an agent?
Well, here's what I'm saying though. I'm a deist, so I believe that exact thing you just said, that God gave us reason and logic, and you've said that. The
problem.
But the revelation part I disagree with.
But here's the problem. You are in the same epistemic conundrum as the atheist in deism, because there's no revelation in deism. Okay? None.
No, it's the same as what you just mentioned. So why is that?
No. There's no way for you to know what we have in deism.
What do you mean you don't mean to? You just said God gave you the cognitive faculties to
look at the world. I know this in virtue of God's special revelation.
No, you don't need God's special revelation to
say.
No,
I would not listen. I could not.
What came first? What came first? Hold on. What came first?
Julius,
what came first? No, I'm asking you a question. What came first? The genetic and telepathic thing that God implanted in you, and then he revealed himself. So the first thing he did was give us revelation physically, mentally, in our hearts.
Can I know something? Listen, Julius.
I'm asking you.
Julius, can you know?
Yeah, so you're taking over the debate. This is how you do it.
Dude, you talked for a very, very long time.
Anyway, listen. I do have to go. I have to. I have to run an errand. So we can continue it later.
All right, yeah, we'll do it later. That's fine.
But listen, like I said before, in spite of our disagreement, you're a delightful person to talk to.
Hey, I like talking to you too.
You're really nice.
It's good challenge. It's a good challenge.
And you're a smart guy. Don't think that because I strongly disagree with you that I don't respect your intelligence. I do think you're very intelligent.
Wait until I learn all these fucking the goddamn jargon. Wait until I learn the jargon. You guys know. Then we'll be
all right. Yeah. Listen, I got to run, but it was good talking
again.
again.
Absolutely.
All right,
take care. All right, bye.